Soji Chona La Chanju Bado Tane Jas Dagu Shujin Jive Sonan Je Androla Benje Sanje Sho Sanje Cheda Toje Chona La Chanju Bado Tane Jas Dagu Shujin Jive Sonan Je Androla Benje Sanje Sho Sanje Cheda Toje Chona La Chanju Bado Tane Dagu Shujin Jive Sonan Je Androla Benje Sanje Sho La Dan La Me Da Mian Ji Ong Bo Da Jia Jin La So Che Che La Sa Wa Che Ba Na San Jia Sun Ba Ru De Xi Jin De Wei Ji Ru Je Ba De Da Qin Che Tun Bei Qin Yin Ji Ni Di De Wei Jia Jin Yun De Ren Je Sa Yu Te Ji Ru Ba Ra Ten Je Che Ba To La Chu Ru Ta Jin Su Hua De Wei La Bei Nian Je Shen Jia Chu Se Yin Me De An Bei Ta Ni Le Ba Tu La Tu Wei Sun Yin Je Na Mo La Ye Ka Dan Da Ni Mo Zhu Da Tang Mi Ka Na Na Zhu Ba Kun Je Zha Na Qi San Ba Tang Je Ge Du Da Gu Che Dan Do So La So Den Da Lo Zhong Ge Zai Zi Le Ani Ka So Re Meng An Ni Bu Te Wa Ni Dong Wa Ta Dan Jia Wa Jia Ti Zhen Po Yu Dang An Ni Dong Wa Ni Ji Jue Lam Qi Chen Ni Da Sun Wa Na Xin Chen Ni Da La Ma Qi Bei Ge Ani Chan Chu Shen Zhong Ge Ga Su Ani Da Lo Zhong Ti Di Ma Dang Zhen Ni Ma Song Yu Yi Ga Na Da Ka Sang Ma Rang Zhou Lo Zhong Ti Di Ma Le Tun Du Yi Bei Ren Wen Zhi Xue Dan Ba Tang Xie De Ya Qing Jia Jia Ya Ge Jiu Chun Zheng Ge La Ren Dan Dini Jiu Qing Bei La Ren Dan De La Ani Tuan Tang Chang Chu Gun Zhe Chang Chu Ge Sem Zhong Wa Da Tuan Tang Chang Chu Ge Sem Zhong Wa Ni Yi Bei Nan Ne Gun Zhe Chang Chu Ge Sem Zhong Ya De La Ani我听嘛，来两他们进来了，过来个人吃饭过，当然人不帮把钱，两边个人在头他，对嘛都送过来的。今天他送把的，今天抢救他们的酒啊，现在看上光他写的，是吧？今天抢救他们的酒啊，写的了，安尼300酒啊当，安尼酒啊你吃有别哪呢？安尼他今天抢救2把是，你自己看上吃了就喜欢拿钱钱呢？ 아니 뒤니 메들라 아니 가서래 살로 추바당 심지어나 아니 니모 쳐라봐 주와당 뒤지 개산도 누비가 나가 가라 아니 다 가진 튀전도 주와당 쟁한 tro수 주와당 니제 그위 신예수 주와 주와 쳐봐가 아니 최대 사바 인장 쟁한 창조 남도 주와 세대 대선 거엔 바리 대인상다 니네가서 아니 라라 가서래 동아 미디비 동아 아니 가려서 내 나살아서 간지지 중화 지나양 저어데 아니 레레 현란 다삼매 봐 아니 아랑기 레양 아니 가다 주나 아니 단선 공부래 중니 아니 텔라 미디밤메다 아니 랑기 세랑아마게 제우세바기 아니 레양아바기 제우세비치도 아니 가서래 라라 어디 구마 예 바지 구마 예 간에 되게 알레지 되고 세바당 저와 치망내 송그 동아 그 바다면 반용 거야 되다 안에 티 고쳐 봐 오삼에 되라 300주와 세타로 진지인지
So thus, yes, now we've arrived in the portion of the Lama Chirpa, which the Guru Puja, which explains the way in which one develops bodhicitta. That has prior to it then the method by the methods we have to perform the practices and meditations by which we ensure that we achieve a good life in the next life that as a platform for further practice. So there's the practices that are subsumed under that category. And then next comes the Mahayana practice specific, which is the development of bodhicitta, and then the practices that come from the development of after one has developed bodhicitta, and the methods for developing bodhicitta, the practices that one does once one has developed bodhicitta, and how one deals with difficult circumstances and such. So within the 7-part mind training practice, this is explained in that kind of presentation, where first there's the practices that pertain to the development of ensuring that one achieves a high rebirth in the next life, and those are subsumed under the practices that one finds in the person of lesser scope and the person of intermediate scope within the three stages, the three principal stages of the Lamrim, or stages of the path kind of exposition. And then within the sevenfold mind training practice, then following that first section, which is ensuring that one achieves a good high status life in the next life, then comes development of bodhicitta. That has two parts, the first of which is the development of phenomenal bodhicitta or conventional bodhicitta. And then that is followed by the development of ultimate bodhicitta. So we've arrived at the portion where it is dealing with the cultivation of the phenomenal or conventional kind of bodhicitta, the aspiration to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. That entails the practices that we've reviewed previously, the way in which one develops equanimity, love, compassion, higher aspiration, and so forth, those portions of it. Then the actual development of bodhicitta itself, the aspiration to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And then there's an additional portion here that's included within the Guru Puja text, where it teaches how to utilize difficult circumstances, hard things, difficult things that occur within, and make them part of the path, bring them into the path. And then there's different subcategories of that within the sevenfold mind training practice, where one takes things like sickness and uses that, instead of it having overwhelming you, you use it as an opportunity, or difficult people that you encounter, or beings, other non-human beings that afflict you in different ways. Those sorts of afflictions are utilized by seeing how, like in the case of sickness, how that is the exhaustion of negative karma that one has committed in the past. And that reinforces one's understanding of the causality of karma, as well as enables one to transform what is typically a difficult situation into something that's positive. Same thing with the arising of any other kind of difficult thing that occurs, like being afflicted by other people or non-human beings. If you can take that as an inducement, instead of seeing it as like something that causes you to get angry and creates more problems for yourself, if you can utilize it to induce yourself to practice patience and to transform that into the path, then it's useful instead of just being a negative thing. And then there's other aspects of this as well that are enumerated.
Oh yeah, 아니 가서 진나 대화 초송어 팬데나가 강화쇼 도나 군지 동하고 동하쿠 동하 계속干바쇼 자니까라 아니 기보 총아이니 지나야 아니 대화대 아니 섬자 탐자라 방어야 진나 대화 초송어 아니 라라 미드비 동아지 샤나 주나야 디기 미드비 동아데 아니 섬자 탐자기 동아 대당 대녀야기 아니 섬자 탐자기 아니 동아 탐자랑기 디 동아 영화데 고쳐봐 어디 고쳐봐 어딘지 제일 가나다 동아 군지 동아고 동아 자소 아니 대달라 때네 현지 동아 자소 대답파 세범 겸바 영화 쇼세다 아니 디두기 경에 나서데 캠보 인배 지장 초 세디기 아니 가르송어에서 랑한 데도 이게 경에 청와대 랑라 아니 냠렘 이게 내던바게 캠보나신 와 데도 경에 나서제 캠보 인배 지장주 tel라 미데바 매바 데도 미데바 매바 동아 주디 가나 아니 동아 미데네 동아 그조 뽕시 세기 아니 뽕시 세가 다된다 대화 되기에는 안에 대화 주주시 세게 아니 오가서를 다 된게 아니 캠보양 대두기 젠텔라 아니 미데바요 말이스 대두기 젠안 나서지 캠보 입에 지장 초 전에 어떤데 산일까라 아니 300군에 아니 참주감도 줘야 되는데
Then the way we transform any kind of thing that occurs to us, whether it's happiness or misfortune or displeasure, is by viewing it correctly. So as far as happiness is concerned, as we discussed already in the practice of giving and taking, when you experience happiness, instead of having it function as a source of more, instead of taking that happiness and having it become a cause of suffering by developing attachment and doing negative things with respect to that good fortune that you're experiencing, you should give it away to others. So that's similar to the giving and taking practice that we discussed previously. Then as far as undesirable circumstances that arise, different difficult situations that one encounters, instead of just getting angry at them and having them also being transformed into further source of suffering, it's taught that by means of just by our thoughts, we can transform these both positive, happy situations as well as negative, undesirable, uncomfortable situations into the path by viewing them in the correct way. Here, as far as uncomfortable or undesirable suffering conditions that arise, if we think this is an opportunity for me, this is my teacher. This is someone who's instructing me in Dharma. This situation is functioning that way because it shows you on the one hand that this came to you as a result of your negative karma. You created those actions in the past that produce this current situation that's arising. And so if you see it in that way, then you can understand that it's arising from that karma, and likewise not see it as something that's undesirable, but rather transform it into something that is desirable even and useful, in that you can learn from this and also, on the one hand, exhaust the negative karma that caused that to arise. And then on the other hand, you can transform it it can be an opportunity for you to learn and to practice patience and so forth, so that it transforms these difficulties, even slight difficulties up to the most hardest sort of things that we encounter in life, into sort of opportunity to develop ourselves. So in that way, as it was said earlier, we can view these kinds of difficult circumstances as like virtuous friends, or in this text it's described as like a teacher, a master who's instructing us.
Oh yeah, that takes the necessary. That is so de la ma. Ani ta ta chung subject. Che ji ge nyam len din de dan ba se de. Ah, dona sang na wa ji xian yang. 去个人不东岸两面去，长久生意配合，那么就得一点把些光把群接了，这的他得给办的，啊，多那上岸那我去抢，去抢啊，谁干了？啊你干的哪个见？啊你查他们掉下来说话，查他们顺当。期间，啊你没得没嘛人进，那把拉说话给，啊你没得被见哎，啊你去抢啊一那样，哦，啊你太大，啊你看说的。 那上那个去个人不当然年龄级谁看了，俺才这个年龄的了，因为当然年龄级，俺你没得被见穷人在他长久的先配话给，俺你就是去哇，长久是嘛结巴框的配话给就是哇是，因当中国人把的，那上那我就想去个人不当然年龄级是，但当然年龄是呢，俺你才这个年龄之内点把它了当啊是，偏白多。 아니 콘베도 가보사변지도 몰람지도 아니 시집에 또 전에 아니 또 아 두신 바래 와야 아 그래 접지됐다.
So then this leads into the next verse, which says, in brief, please bless me, empower me and bless me to be able to do the essential practice. Here this is referring to, it's called the single-pointed practice for developing bodhicitta initially, as well as enhancing it and expanding it, causing it to develop further. So this essential dharma here, or essential practice, is whatever arises, whatever appears, any kind of good or bad appearance, whatever arises, by means of the practice of the 5 powers, which is the essential practice for the entirety of this dharma here. by transforming all of those good and bad appearances into a path which gives rise to the increase of the two forms of bodhicitta, again, phenomenal and ultimate bodhicitta. By having transformed that, then may I be able to, please bless me to be able to meditate such that I view all of these things as being solely a kind of a source of delight, that I be happy to whatever arises in that way. And then here then it says, by means of the practice of the five powers, 톰가.
떠나서는 너와 지셔야 죽은이 뭐 똥나 냐려지 있으리 펜배도 없으나 다 펜받아야 되라. 가르래서는 아니 시리 아니 맛이 춘자 하바도 로디당 나와디당 아니 제바도 드린 게 내가서 아니 다 가서래 장주겠음이라 아니 냠수냠 버체기 마제바 장주겠음 나마지 냠 아니 곰데 영화되니 장주겠음당 나마 다바지단데 아니 저랑질람 제바 추고 냠바게 장주겠음 아니 다 냠수래 편바다야 되라 편바도 세야인 바래.
So then the first of those five is the power of the impulse here. And the impulse is that you're using this as like to impel you to develop bodhicitta in whatever kind of situation you find yourself from now until the end of this life, for the entirety of this life. So you think that from now until I die, from now until the end of this year, from now until the end of this month, from now until the end of today, from now for this hour, or even for this, and in this particular moment that I'm in right now, whatever arises, I'm going to utilize that as a way to produce pure bodhicitta, bodhicitta in a completely authentic and uncontrived fashion, so that it arises in that uncontrived and authentic and exact sort of way, that you use all of these appearances of good and bad things to increase, to produce and increase that pure bodhicitta.
Oh yeah, didn't he? 제가 가보사변지 또 보세야 돼. 아니 chanju system 맞게봐 깨봐다. 깨봐 권에 권위 치 배위 치도 아니 그절라 좀 받대라. 아니 가보사변지 또.
Then the next one is called the power of the white seed. This is here the power of the white seed refers to the generation of bodhicitta as such, the production of it, and such that
가보사변지 또 보잖아. chanju system 맞게봐 깨봐 쳐봐당. 깨봐 권에 권도 배워 치비치도 아니 그절라 좀 받대. 가보사변지 또.
So that applies to, that refers to making effort towards all forms of virtuous activity, so as to generate bodhicitta, which is that you have not yet generated, produced, and then or to cause the increase, expansion of the bodhicitta if you've already that which you've already produced, to cause it to expand and to increase.
Oh yeah, then 제라 나마 수인집에 또 세대 아니 간데질라 세레사나 다 진진당 랑 진진당 당진 공부라 아니 님보 때문에 본 지도 세대라 아니 나마 수인집에 또 세.
Then the next power is the power of eradication, and that is the power of applying yourself in all ways possible to eliminate completely the misapprehension of the self, the cherishing oneself more than others. In brief, this sort of demon that possesses us of the misapprehension and incorrect cherishing of the self, using whatever methods that are available to eradicate that.
Oh yeah, 진짜 가서래 몰람지 또 오세네 아니 chanju제 심 세랍 탐제 chanju 심 맞게봐 깨봐 권나 권도 펴와다 차라 탐제 chanju게 심 남면자와게 아니 몰람 대바데 몰람 그 돕체.
Then the next power is the power of like aspirational prayer, in which you pray, you aspire, a prayer that is an aspiration that throughout this life, all of the whatever bodhicitta you produced will continue to increase. Will if you haven't produced it, that it will be produced, that it will increase, and then not only this life, but throughout all of your subsequent lives, from life to life, continuously into the future, that it be produced and generated and expand higher and higher.
Oh yeah, that's it. 샤주게 셈게 미남 장데 양나 양도 안에 셈라 드와 차데 안에 콤바르 쳬바데라 콤베 또 제이가라 오다 슈기냐 보통나 냠len지 냠len 탈라테네 안에 장주 산주 셈이 페베 남제데 안에 이데 바슈 콤바 치제로 세데 이데 바슈 균도 댄사지 로종나라 요르와 오테나시.
Then the next last power is the power of conditioning or habituation. Here then what one is doing is taking the experience that one has engendered in the course of doing the practices and such of developing bodhicitta, and that experience, that sensation and experience that one feels from those practices, then you condition yourself, habituate yourself to it over and over and over again, so as to again develop it further and expand it. And so that those 5 powers then are the essence of all of the practices that pertain here to this dharma of bodhicitta. And it says then in brief again, whatever arises, whatever good or bad things occur, empower me to be able to, and bless me to be able to transform them into the path here, to transform them such that they function as a path to increase the 2 forms of bodhicitta by means of this practice of the 5 powers, the essence of this entire Dharma teaching here. And by bless me to be, and having done that transformation of all of these things, empower and bless me to be able to cultivate, just to think, cultivate only happiness in the face of these things that appear.
Oh yeah, that 되게 대칭산이 다 뒤오더라. 아니 좋아 시대 탑지초 차라 강도 권라 저 로정 손에 되게 좋아 시대 대 탑게지 차라 강도 권라 저와 탕 세대 다 되긴 바래.
Then the next line follows the practice here. It says that by means of the skill and means which possesses the 4 applications, please, and then the ending of the verse says, please empower or bless me to be able to make this life that I've attained at the moment, this moment of leisure and fortune, to be meaningful by means of the practice of the mind training, as well as the pledges that go along with it, the vows that go along with it, such that, and by applying whatever I encounter by chance, within the meditation or cultivation that I'm doing by that.
Oh yeah, that didn't join 시대 세례 가려서나. 다다진 조유권에 아니 남도 좋아 세대 송거리 아니 좋아 시부터 초사와 디바 정와 연결을 떠마대와 아니 아니 최종을 틀에 좋아 세대 아니 다시 시부터 말해.
So the 4 practices here, I think I said 4 preparations, or it should be practices. The 4 practices that one does in this context are accumulating merit, purifying yourself of negativities, performing worship to the Dharma protectors, and requesting their assistance by their salvific activities, the Dharma protectors, to help you, and then also giving tormas, offering cakes to demonic beings.
Oh yeah, then 가서래 대두기 쟁아 주디 다지 시원하시 전에 안에 대화 되고야나 안에 대위도 가서래 개발의 중앙 인장 안에 개와 속거와 아니 소지식 해봤잖아. 아니 쳐봐 보아다 맨날 보아라 써와라 좀 봐대요. 가서래 좀 봐대 소사봐 세대. 내가 저기 있는 대위주 아니 개와 죽거와. 개와 이제 하나 라마 소지식도 쟁한타네. 아니 소사봐다 맨날 보아라 써와대기. 아니 저 소사봐대. 그와 나 동아 메데나 아니 동아지 저 뻥거와 인상 아니 동아지 저 아니 사단 모순 뻥거와 인상 대라 아니 디바자와 님부터 시고네 샤바시에 대라 소사바 디바장바 도시체.
So then the first of these two practices is the accumulation of merit, massive merit, and the purification of negativities. So this is what we've discussed previously, where we've talked about the invitation of the assembly field into the visualized form that you create, and then the invitation of them, and then once they're there, then one performs offerings to them and performs worship and so forth. And things such as offering the mandala, those are all means of developing a great mass of merit. And in that case, the purpose of this is, again, to produce the potential for subsequent well-being and happiness. If one wants happiness in the future, one has to create the cause for that, and the cause for that is merit. And so this is the means by which we accumulate merit. Those are examples of it. And then, in addition, the purification of negativity is, as we discussed previously, the practices such as doing the confession by means of the four powers for purifying negative actions that we performed in the fast. And again, the same principle applies, that if we do not desire to experience suffering in the future, we have to eliminate the causes of that future suffering, and that comes from that's achieved through the purification of the negativities that we've performed in the past.
Oh yeah. Then 다 가서래 되게 초사바다 집어줘니 어디에세. then 동거라 도마다와세. 동거라 도마다와세. 아니 랑 체디 아니 핀조라 잉잉네 아니 체투와 맞잠발라. 아니 어디도 그 깽에 총대 아니 체디디 깽인데 된데라 소와기 아니 너바기 깽기 dob지 아니 쉐참바 총디가나 아니 동거라 도마딘디 지인데 아니 저랑 같은지 아니 배 타바도 체디 핀조라 양네 잉네 체투바 맞잠발라 다른 게 저랑 그 아니 체참바 꾸유 치도 아니 깽인데 총아데 아니 같은 체세가 아니 동거라 도마데 이 말이.
So then the next comes the offering things, giving things to demonic beings, any kind of obstructors, interferences that appear within your life. When we encounter these demonic sorts of beings that harm us, or that are attempting to harm us, or any kind of interferers, obstructing beings that are attempting to prevent us from accomplishing what we want, or that are interfering with us in various ways, then we instead of what we should do is have this circumstance serve as a cause for the kind of recognition that these things are arising for us because of our former failure to practice dharma, that we didn't practice dharma in the past and abandoned it and did other kinds of negative things with respect to dharma, and thus that's why these sorts of extremely powerful negative forces, demonic beings and other forms of interferers, human and non-human, are appearing to us. Then we, instead of getting angry at them, we think, oh, this is good. This is an opportunity that reminds me of what I did in the past that caused this to occur, and then give gifts to them.
Oh yeah, that didn't. Any cause, Joashina de Betagaji, Chala Kondo, Gomla Joa Tang, Chala Kondo, Gomla Joa, as a Jan Kana, Chala Kan Joa de, and ranzu rangi ane kasore sambadan jowe ane pa kachi tuti ane chala gomla jowa tang ane lojong tamzi labja nyeleji lojong ke tamzi jobje da labja yinxin de da la ane ta sushin de la de sungware da de jama lojong wi de nima yisi tu di shelung pyu kan de yong da mo ga che
So then it says again, whatever occurs by chance, whatever I encounter by chance, may I apply that in my meditation practice. And so the beginning of this verse is again that by means of the skill in the practices, the four practices that were enumerated. May I please bless and empower me to be able to apply whatever I encounter by chance in my life to meditation practice, and by means of the practice of the precepts, and the vows and precepts, which are instructions which are found within the mind training practice. We're not going to elaborate on all of those here now. We'll be discussing those in the context of the other mind training practice subsequently. So by means of those practices, please bless and empower me to make this moment of opportunity, this life of leisure and fortune that I've achieved meaningful.
그래서 다 되게 프로로지도 쉬워체 다 되는 마차에 가나 다 대중에게 가서래 동랭기 미바단 자유 가나 인지 미바다도 단네 아니 렘바당 전면민도 미바다도 되네 아니 동안이 오더라 장디 동랭 미바다 차니 가나 아니 된다왜 아니 참바단 인지 기바 타네 아니 동화다 차와데 나기 차오 양바게 이제 첨보다 대화다 담바데 나기 차오 양바게 다 가소래 대화다 참바니지 차니 네 뒤에라 다 사삼 로아 사삼다 게야데라 사삼다 아니 자주 있으면 게야데 다 뒤로도 올라 송거래 돈은 농라 준비 추대전 참다년제 하베 삼바이专是做起来主要是强求生命中华情节路前的大多生活的是吧当然弄了这边出的机是也跟人家明白咋的呢当晚联邦党前边明白咋的呢安尼个当晚你我人家明白咋的联邦党前边当晚你我的了长呢安尼强巴党你这安尼安尼卡说的这么没人把你接了아니 동아 대다다 차와자 따라라게 차오 아니 내가 때문에다 내가 따라라게 차오 나나메 봐 양다 봐 저에 산제라 따라라게 거봐 차오 양바기 다 하삼기 니지제 되라 돈을 용라 준비 초대자 첨단 인제의 장비 아니 하삼제 야 되버다
So then the next verse, we just given an overview of what is found in what is implicit and mentioned within that verse, not the details that go along with all of it. So then the next verse it says that by means of by means of the please empower and bless me to be able to train in the bodhicitta so as to be able to liberate all migrating beings from the great ocean of existence by means of compassion, by means of love, compassion, and the superior aspiration. And here then the first line is that by means of the, here the term is a special kind of device that is used for lifting water out of a well. And the technical name for it is a sakia, and it's a kind of not irrigation, but a special kind of well hauling water device that lifts water out of a well or a pond, and using pots on a rope. So that's what the mechanism is here. and it's that mechanism is driven by the wind. Here, then, this metaphor is used to refer to the practice of giving and taking, which is mounted upon the wind. So, as mentioned previously, when one does that kind of giving and taking meditation, first one visualizes taking the sufferings of others onto yourself and inhaling them through your left nostril, as mentioned, and that is motivated by compassion. That is, you see the sufferings of other sentient beings, and first of all, of course, one has equalized, has created a sense of equanimity towards all sentient beings, and then see them all equally as all dear and still suffering. And thus you have that feeling of responsibility to free them from their suffering. So then with that, then one has compassion for them and inhales their misery through your left nostril, as mentioned. And that practice increases one's compassion. And then when one exhales through one's left nostril, one visualizes that one is giving, as mentioned, all of one's merit, good fortune, and so forth, one's body, one's the things that one enjoys, as well as one's merit to all other sentient beings. And that is motivated by love. So here then, compassion and love are the motive forces which are you're using and developing in the course of this visualization and practice. So what one is doing then is in developing your compassion further, developing your love further, and what one is thinking in the process is thinking that right now, I am in a position, I see all of these mother sentient beings in this ocean of samsaric suffering. And right this moment, I need to free them from their sufferings and establish them in perfect happiness. So that contains both love and compassion and love, the taking and the giving part of this practice. And then as a result of doing that, one also has to have, or one will produce, and then is sort of intertwined with these, is this superior aspiration of yourself wishing to be in a position to be able to free all of those, and kind of taking the responsibility to free all of those sentient beings from the ocean of samsaric suffering. So that's the third component of this. There's the compassion, love, and the superior aspiration of that sense of responsibility that you yourself, I must do this right now.
Oh yeah, didn't have some pay Chani. And oh, Lana Bayanda was over Sanja, you come out of Chow, Yambaki, and that last some Jenny. And it turned out, and Lana Bayanda Bala, so we change your Goba ship in Newa, do them with the Devan and Niba Meba. Tell myself, Yarandrajan will come on top of the Inayang, Jun Sevatan, and in there said about Chorova in Zang, Te and Miniba. Then you was Sula Yore, Sana, and Casore. The new Lasuan, the new Laricanga Lasuan, Chene. And you were the Sula Yana, Guyu and then Chantan Beji Deba. Sungu and then, and soon Yana Tuji and the Yalanda Deba. Two Chimbi, say, and he says that Tamja Chidawa Sibi, Chidawa Chindu Sibi, Chimbi, Chidangawa. Zivi, just some gentlemen, Mapuchi Bala Zawana, and it's Zawakawa. And the Tilaji and then send it by making to Doja to the Junsa Jam, Madavio, Mindawadi, Tilaji and then the another number by Anda by so we say Kwanala Yoba, and this Sivini, Yobangene. And he, what the Nita tender with Sanja Yokoma told it that any Chitucha was some Tamja, Dunga Judan. Jewala, Dradi, Lana Bayanda was over Sanja Yokombala, Grebi Chidu, and the Dagalana Bayanda was over Sanja Yokombala, which is teenager Toba Chow, Yambaki, Semji Etela, Semji Chiticana, John Sizo Chela, Drevi Chir, Chanchu Semi Jongwa, Chinji Lop, said that to Sinji.
So the way, then once one is through compassion and love, one develops, based on those, the superior aspiration or intention here. The superior aspiration is this thought that I myself must free all of these mother sentient beings from the ocean of samsaric existence. And I must, furthermore, I right now must establish them in the state of perfect happiness, which is unexcelled true perfect awakening. So one has that sense of purpose and responsibility, and then one thinks further but at the moment, I don't have the ability to do that. I don't have the capacity even to establish myself in that position at this moment. So who does have the capacity, the ability to free sentient beings in the most effective and perfect way from their samsaric suffering and place them in a state of perfect happiness? Well, when one thinks of that, then one thinks, well, even if I was to achieve the status of an arhat, had achieved nirvana of the lesser kind, then that nirvana is only a partial kind of awakening. It's not perfect, unexcelled true perfect awakening, but is simply a partial form of awakening, and therefore that kind of objective is not adequate. Rather, then one thinks further that only Buddhas have the perfect qualities that make them the best supreme at freeing sentient beings from their samsaric suffering. And then one reflects upon the various properties of a Buddha, the fact that their bodies are perfect in the sense that they manifest spontaneously in all of the different forms that are appropriate for taming all of the different kinds of disciples. And in terms of their Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body forms, their bodies are perfect in that they possess all of the major and minor marks. And then likewise the supreme emanation body has those characteristics too. And then so one thinks about all of the various good qualities of the body. One thinks about the good qualities of the speech of a Buddha, that it has the 60 special characteristics that enable it to function effortlessly and spontaneously, teaching Dharma in accordance with the languages and thoughts and ideas of all interests and so forth of all sentient beings. And then one thinks of the minds of the Buddhas, that their minds are perfect, and that they, as far as the dimension of their minds, which is engaged in, that's concerned with liberating others from samsara, it's that Buddhas understand perfectly the entire diversity of all phenomena exactly the way they are. And then in terms of their salvific activity, So basically they function, the salvific activity of Buddhas function without any kind of interruption, and so in accordance with the way in which beings are using all of the appropriate methods that conform to the capacities and abilities of beings that are to be trained. And then likewise, this occurs effortlessly and spontaneously without requiring intention or something like that. Then likewise, the Dharmakaya emits light such that it pervades throughout the entire universe, and it strikes all of the sentient beings, I should say numberless sentient beings, such that they're able to be transformed.
Oh yeah, 되게 안에 다 창조기 셈이 정확하게 안에 텐다에 창조기 살아 주민이 영원 남 참아나 안에 창조기 셈이 쳐봐 먼저 창조기 셈 쳐봐 자세 창조 셈바시 비면 쳐봐 안에 뒤받치면 주고 체체 다 도시 말에 좀 많이 봐줘 봐.
So once one has produced bodhicitta, this again, the conventional or phenomenal bodhicitta, the aspiration to achieve unexcelled true perfect awakening, so as to be able to liberate all sentient beings and establish them in unexcelled true perfect awakening. Then, and once one has that bodhicitta, and such that it's not contrived or it's not artificially created, it occurs naturally, then one is actually a bodhisattva at that point, and then also has entered into the Mahayana path.
Oh yeah, then that 파연 계단 파연 쇼안 티네 손데 니로가 밤에 주자 선남서 난가냐 바라도 총소한 나시 전이 되네 손데 자주가 셈제 바다 니로바당 저는 밤에도 좋아라 소위 내가라야 아니 선한 자체뭐 폐와라 소와다 자주 셈지 파연 진주기 려 담보라 샤바도 마투시 말에.
So the benefits of this bodhicitta are explained, for example, in the first chapter of the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life, and there it's said that the benefits of having bodhicitta, producing it and possessing it, are limitless. There's no measure that one can use really to capture the amount of merit that one, the benefit that one has, good qualities that one possesses from having this kind of bodhicitta. It's said that even if one is, once one has produced this bodhicitta, even if one is asleep, or even if one is distracted, then there's still, because they're still bodhisattva, that they have incredible, they're generating incredible, limitless kind of merit and good qualities.
Oh yeah, that didn't la ane chanju ge sem songa tanje ma songwa ane chanju sebe tamba songa etela mesum choga songa da jusum ane choga songa ni che o yo yinza ane chanju sebe tamba songa etela ane da de yo chiwo ma de yong ga de jusun jawa kunji zhe nam namda jasa donbe ju dang shi te jo su zhen sum jin nyam len la sum ba huan lian che ba qin ji lo se de o da de ge o chanchu se be do ba de ani tu sum ji ja wa tham je ge ani de ba ji be lam nga de xuan be sha ani san ji de ri san jian nam jiang cha ani chanchu ge sem sung chanchu sem be ba da ji be da ba sung sung wa le chung ani chung我把做三节吧，嘛，忙把全部的就话样太大人吧，他到全新吧也太大人长推送家伙规矩这些人，是这把级别人，那么大家才去端吧，谁干了？俺那民生他们家建设，民生出个送啊当，俺那就把俺主动送啊你花钱，是吧呀？
So then the next verse, that then describes the way in which one is praying to be blessed, to develop bodhicitta, to train oneself in the development of bodhicitta, in that method, as it's expressed in that verse. And then the next verse, once one has developed bodhicitta, then it's necessary to maintain the vows and to do the practices that follow after bodhicitta, that are connected to it. So this is expressed in the next verse, where it says that, please bless and empower me to strive assiduously at the practice of the three ethical disciplines of the Supreme Vehicle, by having that is the path which is the soul path, which is traversed by all of the victors of the three times. Here, the victors of the three times means past Buddhas, current Buddhas, and future Buddhas, all have achieved, are currently achieving, and in the future will achieve Buddhahood only through this, through preserving their practice of ethical conduct as it's expressed within the Mahayana. And so, therefore, please bless and empower me that my mental continuum should be bound by the pure discipline of the sons or daughters of the victors. That's the Mahayana or Bodhisattva conduct. And so the rest of the verse then follows from that.
Oh yeah, 최선 자와 구제 되잖음. 남다 자세 돈배 최선데 세가라 안에 자세가 돈 받더라. 안에 지도 잡아서 무슨 아니 무슨 체르사 삼제 탐제 도도 안은 바양다 봐서 산제 주 공부 토바 차오 냠지 아니 삼바데 무슨 잠체 아니 나는 바양다 봐서 산제 주 공부 톰되지 셈제네 아니 셈제 뒤 남양 미당 냠바체가라 무슨 탐자 제체 와 어때 있는 가라 무슨 탐자 제 송디 가라 아니 상주서 제 파연 뒤주도 대당 아니 선제 르미 봉와당 아니 손이 사바다 점바당 아 된데다 아니 데 가서를 고고아리 나비 취시 봉와당 가비 취시 담바라 소와키 다들이 레시 뭐하체 무슨 탈자 다 뒤제라 아니 주동 셈제바 점지 매주 미쳐봐 아니 자사지 제바 친루라 아니 로바 로바 놈들이 심바텔라 좋아 대단 좋아 이 제다 셔와서 지신 개외 되니니 제다 음식 셔와자 전에 주주를 소와 나신이 전에 제배 자사지 제바 친루를 놈들이 제왕 무슨 심바다 말씀배 제바기 아니 주바섬제당 아니 멤버스지 샤기요 일단 주좀 세야 돼 아니 놈들이 로바되바기 아니 어떤 말씀하더라 주좀 쓰고 하래
So then here we have to differentiate different levels of bodhicitta, different forms of it. The initial form of bodhicitta is the thought that I should become a Buddha. I should achieve unexcelled true perfect awakening so that I can liberate all sentient beings from samsara and establish them in unexcelled true perfect awakening, the status of Buddhas. So I myself must become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Then, so that's the initial stage of the aspirational form of bodhicitta, which is it's called the sort of minimal form of bodhicitta, the minimal aspirational form of bodhicitta. Then once one goes beyond that and says that one forms the firm resolve that henceforth I will never relinquish this aspiration to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, that's called the aspirational form of bodhicitta, which is bound by a pledge. So it's a second level of that. Then, in addition to that, if one goes beyond that and thinks, and actually takes the vows which go along to the with the active form of bodhicitta. The active form of bodhicitta is that where it's not simply an aspiration, but one is actively engaging in the practice of the bodhisattva path, such as performing the 6 perfections, gathering disciples by means of the 4 means of attraction, and the other practices that are found in the Mahayana path. So when one does that, then one has actually is engaging in the practice of the bodhisattvas, and thus one's bodhicitta is active at that time. And that in turn can be done such that one takes specific vows to do certain forms of, avoid certain kinds of negative behavior, engage in positive forms of behavior. There's more detail that could be said about that. but we'll not go into all of the details on that here.
Oh yeah, ani judum, ani sundi samba, ani jusong ke labja dela, panja dela, ani tadun joje, yeje shiru, ani saba chendri ke dunga, chendri la, ani songo yache.
Then once one takes the bodhisattva vows, then there's the 18 principal downfall that would violations of those vows. And then there's additional vows that relate to, that are subsidiary to those vows, and subsidiary vows even multiple sets of these various forms of enumerations of the vows that one has to preserve.
Oh yeah. Just Java Kunji Treasure, I'm the Jassa to be good damaging, see all Jassa Tomba, I need to be Tomba. Anita, Angela Jenny. I need to remember some Niger don't be treating. I need to watch it treating. I need some jet to treating Sumbotella. And that, Castle, Niger don't be treating Sena. Anita, so Chilena. So Sabitomba Tangagina, I need to change the Niger don't be treating la so that about the Shashogre. 아니 소다고도 매버지나 아니 메가 지봉고 추림 그러와 예제도 추림함 아니 개와 추디지 추림실에 고스미지 개와 지시에 참 참제 아니 장주지 셈마 제바 배워라 제바게 아니 주가 좀 받달라 개와 추디 추림다 아니 섬제지 대샤와 주주라 싸와라 좀 받지 섬제 된지 그 추림 제의가나 너나 아니 추림 안 봤습니다 로바달라 그 가서 저 수련심 제냠내라 안에 좀 훈련 잡아 치제로 어떻게
Then, so that then is expressed in the second line of the text of this verse, where it's again the first line says that this soul path, which has been traversed by all of the victors of the three times, is having one's mental continuum bound by the discipline or the vows of the pure vows of the sons and daughters of the victors. And then the third line is that then the last line is that please empower and bless me to train assiduously, to make assiduous exertion towards the vows in the second line, and then likewise, please bless and empower me to train, to make assiduous effort, strong effort in the practice of the three kinds of ethical discipline which pertain to the supreme vehicle, the Mahayana here. So the three kinds of ethical discipline that are specified here, the first of these is the ethical discipline of restraining oneself from engaging in faulty forms of behavior. This subsumes both the practice of the vows of individual liberation, if one is a monk or nun of any of the different categories of monastic ordination, then one is a bodhisattva. Then one must, of course, one has to preserve one's monastic or ordination discipline of the pratimoksha vows, the vows of individual liberation. Then, if one is not ordained like that, then one, nevertheless, as a bodhisattva, has to practice the ethical discipline of avoiding the 10 kinds of non-virtuous actions, regardless. So then that's the first. And then the second one is the ethical discipline of gathering together all forms of virtuous dharma. Here, virtuous dharma refers to any kind of virtuous activity that we engage in. And the process of, or the practice of gathering this together literally, or subsuming it together, collecting it, I guess is a better translation, collecting virtuous dharma, refers to transforming whatever kind of virtuous activity that one is engaged in and into and dedicating it towards the achievement of unexcelled true perfect awakening, for the achievement of Buddhahood. So that's the second. And then the third is the ethical discipline of performing the aims of sentient beings. This entails such things as teaching the Dharma and things of that nature, helping other beings.
Oh yeah, that 되게 chanchusebe tamba sonade chinchache. That then semje chanchusebe tamba sonne, ane jasa jiba lobe sutela. Ane jiba jila lobadang. Ane jiba de paji tamani losu ni yong araba. So that jiba jila lobsutela, ane o jimbala loba sudula loba sobala loba tusma, ane paji jula bashi tango. Yeah.
So that then explains then the basic, the overview of the portion of the path, which has to do with the method in which one generates bodhicitta, how one preserves bodhicitta once one has produced it, and how one practices the path once one has developed bodhicitta. These verses give a summation of those principal practices. Then, once one has developed bodhicitta, taken vows and so forth to maintain it, and vowed to practice the path of the bodhisattva, then one, of course, has to perform the practice of the 6 perfections, which are training oneself in the 6 perfections of generosity, etc.
Oh yeah, da jimbala lobe tela, anida kandere tange. Tsuje de mar tanda na bi ba shugun gewa anida laurin gala togo wa yinza shimoga che ani de de tanda de unshi ni yuji chaja lo ju kan la de yinza shimoga che da tsuje ma shugun de ni oh ya da de ni jimbala lo zo de la se ani ka so re da ju surun su je nyang lo jimbal hulen che ba chi je lo 류당론지 뒤숨께서 제sem야라란 대변 의교대 참여 동선 폐위 명하게 아니 집에 파치 저와 친지로 세가나 아니 짐바텔라 아니 류당와 론제당와 아니 계사 어제제 대다 딜라 측신을 템바텔라 아니다 류당론지 뒤숨께서 제 세가나 어디 임바래 아니 sem야라란기 아니 유당은 지심자라는 대병의 주대제 강나 강도기 라라 라랑 그 대바다 참바기 아니 뭐 주대 아니 다에 sem자라는 대병의 주대 아니 참 진벽코서 매매받도 배셔럽지 거네 데 셔럽지 심벽거나 또야 되라 유당은 지 투송관 소제 대양 아니다 개초초지라 동선 관에 공도 배워라 아니 진바셔거래 세네 군정 그 트마 차와 지당 아니 류당와 잘라 아니 진박 파진 마인 봐 세네 군정 차와 아니 야란라 여바래 세네 진 아니 년주 인장 야란자 점배세 아니 년주 방바 인자 세네 군정 방인 바래 대인자 텐제做마인 봐做的 아니 동선 동위사바 관에 공도 배워라 셔거 말해 인자 류 롱제 뒤에서 계속다 제와 아니 가소래 집에 코스 멤버도 비셔럽 심표 관에 아니 다 동아텔라 집에 파진 제 텐더에 동서 관에 공도 배워야라 아니 집에 파진
So here then, next are enumerated the practice of the 6 perfections. This is explained in detail in the stages of the path, formulations of the path, and that being the case, so as to eventually to be able to arrive at the main meditation topic, the Mahamudra. Then we won't go over these subjects in great detail, but simply to give a basic explanation of what is entailed in these practice of the 6 perfections and the remaining portions of the path. Here then, the next verse explains the perfection of generosity. And this says that having taken one's body, one's possessions, and all of the mass of virtue that one has created over the course of the 3 times, the past, the present, and what one will produce in the future together, and having transformed them into all of the things which are desired by all, which are needed and desired by all of the different individual sentient beings. Then by means of the special instruction for increasing the attitude of giving, the giving attitude without any kind of attachment, please bless and empower me to perfect, to complete the perfection of generosity. So here then, the body, giving one's body, transforming one's body on the higher levels of the Bodhisattva path, one actually can do that, give away one's body to others, one's possessions to the extent that one is able to, give them away and eventually be able to give them all up without any kind of hesitation or attachment. One's merit of past, present, and future. One thinks that one is transforming those into all of the things which are needed by other sentient beings, food, clothing, relief from their suffering, whatever is necessary for them. And then, in particular, it does this by employing the special instruction for increasing the attitude of giving up things. Here, giving up is not just giving away one's body sort of without some qualification. That alone is not what is indicated here. Rather, it's having the ability to give things, whatever it is, give it away. Here it says without attachment. And attachment, even here the lack of attachment arises from being able to see the emptiness of oneself as subject, the action of giving, as well as whatever you're giving away, understanding the emptiness of those, that they're free, they're pure of the kind of misconception that is attributed, that is superimposed on them by ignorance. And understanding that, then one is free from attachment. Now, giving things away without attachment is something that even those who follow the lesser vehicle path are able to do. So that alone is not simply giving away things away without attachment as such, is not the perfection of giving, rather, or perfection of generosity. Rather, the perfection of generosity is this being able to give things up, and at the same time seeing the absence of intrinsic existence of oneself as the agent, the object that is given away, and the action of giving things themselves.
Oh yeah, 就说，他第一节了，你出这么久，你爬进了落足天，他带去哪些样儿？我他去学哪些？说他像什么3个多把一见着少个钱没东西，过去对他什么件团主比出这么爬进做我天节喽，是一个了，你他，他说的。说，东巴得了，你说他去出征，他就说哪些钱呢？哦，说他去出征，你强生去出征就懂，我就东巴这一个了。我这个，你东巴什么的，3个说他出3个健身的他，你少个钱没多少。天这边，你东巴听不东边出征得了，光是喜欢那些，有些东边出征的，给我去的个出征，什么叫天气给出征得的？你他，我告诉出征的，你爬进做我去期间，那就说我钱的，他都是没的，是吧？
So then the next verse discusses the perfection of ethical discipline. And the verse here then says, first it lists the 3 types of ethical discipline, the ethical discipline of the pratimoksha, or individual liberation, the precepts and practices that pertain to that form of ethical discipline. Then the general bodhisattva vows, the vows that one takes and to abstain from certain kinds of behavior and to do certain kinds of things. Then there's the vows of the mantra, the secret mantra path, the gross forms of infractions and so forth that are enumerated in the vows of the secret mantra. And so it says that here then, please bless and empower me to be able to completely to perfect the perfection of ethical discipline, by not abandoning or giving up even the slightest rules, or to transgress across the boundary of even the slightest rule that is found within those three forms of ethical discipline, likewise to be able to accumulate all of the virtuous dharma, that is, transform one's positive behaviors into the causes of enlightenment, in order to accomplish the goals of sentient beings. Please bless me to be able to perfect the perfection of ethical discipline. So then that not giving up the vows that one has taken indicates then the discipline of abstaining from bad behavior, from misbehavior. And then the verse also mentions the collection of virtuous dharma, that second form of ethical discipline, and then it also just mentions the achievement of the aims of other sentient beings, the practice of accomplishing the aims of other sentient beings, that form of ethical discipline.
Oh yeah, that the herb 대체가 간디 추진지 파진을 심파체, right? that 대체라 감수교구 말을 최주대 시신 상주 내신 가세 메르는 판바주제베 아니 세베 파진저와 친제로 감수지 아니 심전 여도죠 지구세의 여도죠로 거야지단 장가 구랑 전이와인 바래 감수지 선제 여도죠 감수무 그 지구 말을 봐 여도죠 봐 최대 아니 라라 시와다 아니 견장 땜바다 아니 시신 찬조 아니 대바다 감수 지구 말을 최주지 시신 찬조 대신 아니 소제바장 소제장 아니 파 아니 수네바 샤바 내년 마셰바 내년 메셰바 와 감수 지구 말을 최주지 시신 찬조 대신 소제장 아니 가서를 파 편바 주베 삼바치니 감수 지구 말을 최주지 시신 찬조 민주 내년 편바 주 루셰바기 아니 세베 파진조와 친지로
The next verse then explains the and requests empowering blessings to be able to perfect the perfection, to complete the perfection of forbearance or patience, forbearance. And this verse then says that even if all of the beings within the three realms of existence, the desire realm, non-physical realm of the non-physical realms, and all of those beings in their entirety, in all of the different forms and so forth, if all of those beings were to get angry at me, were to criticize me, or scold me, to humiliate me, to threaten me, and even if they were to take my life, please bless me to not be disturbed by that, and in response to the harm that they do to me, to instead benefit them, instead of retaliating to the harm that they're doing to me. I should instead reply with kindness and to benefit those sentient beings. So this says, please bless and empower me to be able to complete the perfection of forbearance, which enables one to be able to accomplish that kind of practice of not being disturbed by others who are doing all those things, and to instead to reply with kindness and to benefit them.
Oh yeah, 되게 안에 가서다 쪼데 안에 초있음 공조에 근데 다래래 년보래 요아 인자 엔 진박이 세나 년보 쳐봐 아니 수중기 여제다 그 년보 쳐봐 아니 서박이 자조 공조 그 년보 쳐봐 인자 초있음데 좀 지삼바 아니 가서 초있음 좀 받점지 아니 수중기 파전 좀 한번 줘봐 랑기 아니 초이 셈좀 지삼바 아니 치료라 아니 가서는 뭐지 미바 칸데지 찾나야 아니 콩 가서를 쳐서 미제봐 다 진주 가서 소환하신 사진데 다 거여도 초위 셈데 직접나 자제 탐자 처당자 다 탐제 좀 받아 저그래서 랑그 초 공조의 심생을 초와의 마음 메디 잠바 안에 치료가 다 시행 탐제 좀 받아 저그래서 초위 심지 지도나 다리 탐제 좀 다자 사진데다 고여도 되게 고야 갈라라 3D 탐제 고와네 사진 탐제 요다 자 시간라 이자 랑그 아니 강발라 참아 마수비 치도 아니 사진 탐제 아니 고야 요바이나 아니 고와게 다야 요 말이스 아니 사진 탐제 고와 요 메고 바랑게 라 아니 강발라 요 제치 아니 고와 삼도주 건바이나 아니 사진 탐제 고와 요 바단 잡아 지바레스 대신 랑게 셈데 샹라 초와 좀 쪼나 아니 미유 샹 탐제 아니 좀 바단 잡아 라라 콘도 지바 미세메제 바이자 대신 셈도 치도 그 샹남도 가서 저에서 다들 좀다 사진 건요거와 사람들이 좀 사진 샹남 거와 갈라랑 셈데 지보 아니 초와데 좀나 아니 샹남 아니 저의 요새다 좀 돼야 말이 어디서 말이
So that's these three verses that we've gone over that deal with the perfection of generosity, the perfection of ethical discipline, and then the perfection of forbearance or patience. These are correlated with different kinds of mental afflictions, so that the first of these is the perfection of generosity is the antidote to and overcomes the affliction of stinginess, of stinginess. Then the perfection of ethical discipline is the antidote to all kinds of misdeeds, different kinds of misbehavior and faulty forms of behavior. And then the perfection of forbearance is the antidote, is the contrary of anger. So here then it's explained in the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life that if one overcomes anger, then one is not bothered by any kind of enemy that arises or any kind of difficult situation that you encounter. You can't be harmed by it. So the verse here then says, even if all sentient beings all of the beings in the three worlds were to arise, to get angry at me and to come at me by criticizing me, by humiliating me, by threatening me, or even killing me, I shouldn't be disturbed by that, but instead should respond to their harm to me with kindness and to benefit them. So in the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life, the same thing is expressed, where it says that if you're in I'm not able to translate the verses exactly, but the basic gist of it is that if you're in a situation where you're walking around barefoot, then the whole world is like covered with thorns, and everything will be irritating and harmful to you. Everything that everywhere you walk will be painful. Whereas if you're wearing boots that have leather on them, then no matter where you go, you don't have any kind of problem at all. The thorns won't stick into your rocks, won't harm your feet, so you won't have any pain or anything like that. So the example here is that if your mind is such that you're extremely sensitive to any kind of thing that you judge to be harmful or threatening to you or what criticism or whatever, then you're just going to automatically experience anger, and then even if that gets worse, then you'll retaliate, and all the different kinds of whole complex of suffering will arise out of that. Whereas if you protect your mind with patience and forbearance, then no matter what sort of conditions you encounter in the world, whatever kind of difficult problems, people, what have you, you can't be harmed by them. You have that like leather covering the bottom of your feet. You're protected from any kind of harm from them. So this verse in the prayer here, or this verse in the puja, is saying, asking the guru to bless you, to empower you to develop that same kind of forbearance that not only not be angered by harm that you encounter, but instead to respond to it with kindness and to benefit those who are attempting to harm you.
Oh yeah, today comes to Gelug Mahamudra treasure the 谢谢唱主德行所在讲，我听到了，俺那什没住吧？俺那听到了呀，俺那可能做了让我没吧？俺那可能做呀，你们没根据你的，俺那让了那就得穷啊也让，确实的，俺那可能就你们得了嘛吵嘛做，让了吵没吧？也让那把情感得了吵没些吧？多的人也看那进来了。这样准备了吧了，没把准备了吧了，没把出版明天的是，除非你们谈生计，你们谈这那，俺那看啥明是一个啦，那把就，俺那什么样都什么那都没得把什么出的，俺那没把得了把喇叭加把了说话给没把了，钱说呢，俺那没把这个那把得了，可能让我没把。什么那个印章，没把的，那把的了，没主办拿行。特别你们谈生的，你们谈的那种，俺让做了样，俺怕着别那把穷的啥吧，那把穷也给看啥的了，让我没把看啥的你们当马上把他说话给现在给往送话印章，说啥的俺那看说的，看啥的马上马着吧。俺那我现在的了超过的是，特别你们谈生的，你们谈的看啥名是，你们谈这个看啥的了超嘛的，超啥你们的现在给往上给看啥的个推，尤其现在的了超过的是，特别怎么的？特别你们谈生的，你们谈这看啥名？
So thus, here this is explained further in, maybe it's in the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara, the ornament for the Mahayana Sutras, I'm not sure. But it's here that there's verses that say that just in the way a doctor doesn't get angry at a person who is crazed, that is, here, if you have a patient who is suffering from mental illness and the person is insane, and they strike out at the doctor and they hit the doctor isn't angry at the person. They're angry. They're angry at the sickness, the mental illness that is afflicting this person that is suffering from that mental illness. So just like that, it said, the Buddhas the sage does not get angry at persons, but is angered at mental affliction. That is, the object of the animosity of the sage is not the person who is suffering from mental affliction. Rather, it's the mental afflictions themselves which are inducing this person to engage in that kind of destructive, harmful behavior. So the verse here in the Guru Puja says the same thing, that effectively, or implies the same thing, that when we encounter difficult circumstances, especially when other persons are harming us, instead of seeing the person as the source for that harm, we should understand that it's the mental affliction that is dominating this person, controlling them, and is inducing them to do that harmful behavior. And we should, if we're going to get angry, have animosity towards anything, then it's to the mental afflictions that are driving this entire process.
Oh yeah, 아니 제주 가수랑 가대 사단 하면은 탐제다게 자랑장 대다게 장 남매비 매난 치치 좀 미니 니모 또전 다디니 강다탄나 리랍장 타와야니 미니베 대다게 지라 토르 소나시 오다 가소레 사단 하면 막 탐제랑게 자랑니 라를 내바차와듯이 이나양 대다게 안에 냐와기 야와나라 치투고 말해서 냐와게 매난가를 첨면 치투고 말해서 그러면 가대 하나 하면은 탐제다게 자랑자 대다게장 남매비 매난 치치 주민이 그러면 하고서 니몬 또전 데디니스 아니 가소레 라닝 가서도 주바 마세 아니 단다디 간다다를 레 니몬 거 또지 아니 가소레 가와 지비체 아니 니몬 또전 데디 리랍장 타와야네 미데 바타다까지 리자고 리랍다 잡아 링잔다 잡아 아니 니몬 거 또지만 지바지 용 지교아레스
So this is similar to what is explained elsewhere in, again, the Bodhicharya Avatara, the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life, where Lord Shantideva says that even if the entire world was to arise as an enemy to me, that is, the verse actually says that if all of the people in the world, together with all of the gods, were to rise up as my enemy, they wouldn't be able to cast me into the fire of hell. They don't have the power to do that. And then, however, this great demon, this mighty demon of the mental afflictions, is like the fire at the end of the eon, which is able to incinerate the entire universe. That is the world mountain of Mount Meru, together with the 4 continents. This entire world is incinerated by that fire at the end of the eon. An entire world system is incinerated by that kind of fire. So the great mighty demon of the mental affliction is like that fire at the end of the eon.
Oh yeah, 가서 주고 말했죠. 다 대진이 서바텔라 안에다 가져와래 해서나 아니 가서래 숨이 와라 동아 다니지 잡아. 내제라 치면이 bes어봐. 아니 저가로 내제라 치면이 bes어봐. 출랑했으면 주서봐. 전에 써봤음.
Then with respect to forbearance, there's 3 types of it. There's forbearance that is it's an ability to endure whatever kind of difficulty or hardship that one encounters. The second form of it is the forbearance which is not retaliating to harm that other beings do to one. And then the third form of forbearance is forbearance with respect to dharma reality.
Oh yeah, 다 뒤제라 섬자리를 치안 남매배 만한 가와자서 내거장 인제면서 창조 초전배 진리 파진서와 친지로 세가 아니 섬자리를 치양 아니 가와라 남매라 아니 가위 봐도 내거장 섬자리를 치안 남매배 만한 가와자서 내거장 아니 섬 인제 신부그 때때 아니 지금 해봐 가서래 조금 해봐 맨날 가와지 인지 미죠 아니 장주 초전비 진주 파진소와 친제로 세가나 섬정 권한용원에 아니 가서래 가서인데 옛날에 봐도 내장 섬제를 치안 남에 맨날 가와져서 내 거장 인지 미죠 시리가나 랑 섬제 대다 그 치도 가와가냐 남에도 내와라야 아니 진지다 과자 연나양 섬제 대다 아니 동아지 내와라 미스비 인지 쇼처비 천제지 아니 세도 자와 섬제 탐제 된도 묘한이바 아니 가서래 냐위 동안라 처외 치도 아니 나는 뭐 양다바 저에 산제주 고마 토바 아니 가서래 토바 쳐봐 아니 진지 좀에 승과래 섬제를 치안 남에비 맨난가와자서 내거자 인지 미조 장주 초저비 진지 파진서와 친지로
The next verse explains and requests a blessing, empowerment to be able to complete the perfection of effort. And here the perfection of effort is explained that even if I had to remain in the fire of the unceasing hell, the hell that is without any torment, without cease, for oceans of eons, for for the sake of each individual sentient being. So here then, for the sake of each individual sentient being, I had to remain in this fire of the Avicii, unceasing hell, for oceans of eons of time. May please bless and empower me that I should not be discouraged, but out of my compassion. So here this is saying within the perfection of effort, one is perfected through or completed through compassion, because by seeing the sufferings of other sentient beings, that gives one this special kind of ability to endure and any hardship that one encounters through the course of practicing the path. And therefore, here it's praying for that kind of power to be able to do that, empowerment to do that. And so please bless and empower me to be able to complete the perfection of effort, which is the supreme kind of exertion towards awakening.
Oh yeah, that's it. The order学校呀，全国南北因为卷八呢，全国南北单元内路啦，这些年把准备定成绩，俺那3年拍清楚话，清洁老是也干了，俺那定的成绩卷，俺那卡说的，起码到过吧，啊，什么去了的硬往给，俺那卡说的，过吧，吃点下个吃多过吧当，俺那起码，我。也他定义自己跟刚拍出去吧啦，拍出的，我全国人把这一拍洗完钱呢，全国人把因为捐帮呢，那搞的，那看说了什么，新年给没办啦，那路当半年，下年，全国人把单位那路啦，全国人把单位那路啦，这些年把准备定成绩是一个啦，他。没把他那没呢，他忘记接了团队那些钱呢，3年过日子住的，他儿俺呢3年过吧，俺呢那时这几笔定的钱，俺天这位的俺那卡说了宣讲给，台湾他们申办律师宣讲给台湾申办那，俺那现在计划一张，全国那把因为捐办呢，全国200多边南路啦。这些年把准备定成绩，俺那3年拍清楚话，清洁老是，
The next verse explains then, is praying for the blessing and empowerment to be able to complete the perfection of meditation, meditative concentration. And it says here, by having gotten rid of the faults of dullness and agitation, which are distracting. Here, dullness distracts one or causes one to lose the object of meditation. Here, the object of meditation is, in this case, is where one is developing shamatha, that kind of calm, abiding mind of particularly focused on emptiness, the basic nature of phenomena. And so here, dullness and agitation distract one, are faults, which distract one from the object that one's attempting to single-pointedly focus upon. And so so it says, by means of the meditative concentration, which is engaged in meditative equipoise single-pointedly upon the way things are, which is that they're devoid of being real. All phenomena are devoid of being real in the sense of existing the way they appear as intrinsically existent. So so it says, please bless me to be able to complete that perfection of meditative concentration. This is referring here again to the development of shamatha, which will be discussed later, where one goes through the 9 states of development of shamatha. And the principal obstacles that one overcomes, especially initially, is dullness and agitation. And there are various factors that are employed, mindfulness and introspection, that are the antidotes to those. So that's explained in this verse.
Oh yeah, that's so